Hello, in this video I want to have a look at pelican symbolism and in churches, but also especially to do with Freemasonry. But I'll begin with St. Peter and Paul's former cathedral, Goulburn, New South Wales. This is a Catholic cathedral, or former cathedral, and it's, as with all these structures, it has the same standards of symbolism, also measurements. Basically the same template, which very much connects it with pre-Christian architecture, pre-Christian symbolism. St. Peter and Paul, one with the key, one with the sword, but if we have a look inside, and the previous upload to this I had a quick look at processional symbolism. So here we see the altar, the four Gospels, the four evangelists, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and how they connect to the procession of the equinoxes or the great year. Very much a standard in Christian churches, but also throughout sacred architecture, sacred geometry in general, and all these themes related to the esoteric and the occult, going back to the oldest recorded periods of history. So these are all very important, but what I'm focusing on is, here we see just above the altar, and the pelican feeding her chicks. Now, there's an old legend in regards to that the pelican, in times of famine, and as a if the chicks are too hungry, that the mother pelican will pierce her breast and feed the babies with the blood. Now, this is very much also connected with this old fable of the pelican father killing the chicks, and then on the third day the mother pelican would return, pierce her breast, and the blood would revive her baby. So a symbol of resurrection on the third day, very strongly connected to Christian symbolism. This is the main building, the quadrangle in Sydney University, by the architect Edmund Blackett, who is at least in Australia, a very important in regards to architecture in general, but especially in regards to the broader term sacred architecture and the use of symbolism. So we see on this arch, it's like, well, overloaded. It's like a dictionary of symbols, but this being the university building, so the symbols of the sciences, so like agriculture, medicine and pharmacy. You'll also see aeronautics, chemistry, physics, all the basic schools of what inside what you'd expect to find in a university. Now, if you were to break down each one of these symbols themselves, they also have multiple forms beneath that, which is a standard pattern. No one symbol has really one hard meaning. There's layers always to it. But inside the alcove here, that was in regards to the Anzacs and Suvla Bay, so World War One reference, a war memorial in essence, and the concept of sacrifice again is one that again connects strongly to this pelican and the mother sacrificing itself, very reminiscent in a way of the phoenix. So the phoenix rises from the ashes of its dead parent. We see something very similar happening here with mother pelican using her blood to revive her dead chicks on the third day. So not just in Australia, you'll find it's a universal pretty much symbol, especially to deal with Masonry and Catholic Church, but and your standard church. So these last two were from Bruges and from Antwerp, but the pelicans, very important. You'll see this symbol, like with a lot of these, you wouldn't notice them at first, but then you'll start to see how often they appear over and over again, and not always in the same places. So if you keep your eye open for the pelican, but if you remember, the father killed the chicks, the mother on the third day revived the chicks with her blood. Very much like the crucifixion, very much like Jesus rising on the third day. The state seal of Louisiana in the USA again has another example of this. You can even see the blood from the breast being fed to the chicks there. But it's the pelican is one of the key symbols especially in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, and especially to do with the 18th degree or Rose Croix, which is, well, the Rosicrucian, so the Rosy cross. So you'll see this cross with the rose, and again on, so Rosicrucians separate, but also in how they also, the symbols are also used in especially Scottish Rite Freemasonry. This is from 1610, I believe. It's one of the older Rosicrucian pictures of, again, this, the pelican um, uh, bleeding from her breast. I think this was a snuff box, but Freemasonic artwork, trinkets, medallions, tracing boards, aprons. This is a common feature. So the rose cross, which is something I've mentioned in a few earlier videos, but also the pelican feeding. So the male kills the chicks. 3 days later, the mother revives the chicks with her blood. Another fable was that simply in hard times, the mother would pierce her breast to feed the chicks her own blood, a symbol of sacrifice, a symbol of the older generation giving way to the younger generation. So this is one of the larger churches or cathedrals in Chicago. But again, through across all of this ancient artworks, tracing boards, this type of thing, you'll see it's essentially it is one of the essential symbols in sacred architecture, and well, again, especially to do with churches, Roman Church, but also Freemasonic symbolism, especially on the Scottish Rite. And again, as with the earlier pendant, we see the 5 petals around there, which is another little reference. Anyway, so pelican symbolism, it goes quite far. So it crosses sort of from folklore into the religious realm, and also into the occult organisations. You have to remember Oddfellows and Freemasons are just one branch. So you have earlier streams, Rosicrucians, throughout the whole Hermetic tradition. Again, and also going back to pre-Christian times. It's one of these ancient, well, as with all the symbols that are thought of as purely Christian, are in fact quite ancient, quite much older, and multiple layers. So it's a bit like the onion. You got the outside layers, and you go further and further in, further back in time, and you can start to trace the origins of these things. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and be kind to pelicans and have a good one.